ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 Good morning, Pozu. Today we shall say a new prayer. Please repeat after me. Prayer is given in your page book on page number 10. Sarvastaratu durgani sarvo bhadrani pashyatu sarva sadbuddhimapnotu sarva sarvatra nandatu sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramaya sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet durjana sajjano bhuyat sajjana shanti mapnuyat shanto muchyeta bandebhyo muktaschanyan vimochayet muktaschanyan vimochayet. Let us see the meaning of the prayer. It is given on page number 11. Sarvas taratu durgani. May all overcome impediments. May all overcome obstacle. Sarvo bhadrani pashyatu. May all see the auspicious. May all see what is good. Sarva sadbuddhi mapnotu. May all attain wisdom. Sarvatra nandatu. May all exult everywhere. May all be happy everywhere. Here, sarve means what? Everybody. Only not people in Hyderabad and not people in India. We are addressing the entire mankind. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, may all be happy. Sarve santu niramayaha, may all be free from disease. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, may all realize what is good. Ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, may none be subjected to misery. Durjanah sajjano bhuyat, may the wicked become virtuous. Sajjanah shanti mapnuyat, may the virtuous attain tranquility. Only good people will enjoy peace. Only good people will attain tranquility. That is the only difference between wicked people and virtuous or good people. Why we are asked to practice morality and righteousness? Because we are all longing for peace and happiness. Peace and happiness are the goals that we have in life. Anybody wants to enjoy disturbance? Anybody wants to have a disturbed mind? No. Do you want a mind that is in turmoil all the time? No. But if we just see just this society, so much of psychological turmoil. That's why dharma is important, virtue is important, values are important because they give you peace and happiness. Because there is no conflict within you. That is the longing of every human being, for that matter, to have the greatest happiness and to have maximum peace. That will come to us only when you practice morality and when you practice virtue. So there are two forces. One force actually is trying to draw us away from virtue or morality, as it were. There is another force actually trying to attract us towards virtue. So we are sandwiched between these two forces. One you can say centripetal and another is centrifugal. That's why it's very difficult to define human being. See, very difficult to understand the Creator's creation. Very difficult to understand Maya. Two forces are at work simultaneously. And people have this question, why God has created such a miserable world? We have to reflect carefully. Good and bad both are there. That's how the creation exists. Without these two things, creation cannot exist. Beyond the good and bad actually lies the truth, which is eternal Sakshi, which is just a witness. సాక్షి రూపంగా భగవంతుడు విట్నెస్ చేస్తున్నాడు. ఇది ప్రకృతి అంటాం మనం. Whatever that's going on in this universe, Prakriti. Prakriti can be made only with the opposites. There are no opposite actually supposed to light. Something which you call as light only when there is darkness. Right? If there is no darkness, you don't have to call it light, right? So something is good, we call only because there is bad. So these polarities are there only in the relative. In the absolute, all these distinctions vanish. In the relative world only, these distinctions will be there. Only when there are distinctions, actually, the relative can exist. Otherwise, actually, relative becomes the absolute. So our goal is, our journey is to go from this relative to the absolute. So may all be happy. That's actually basically the essence of this prayer. So if you just look at our world today, why there is so much of peacelessness, why there is so much of conflict, all this is because human beings are trying to become more and more exclusive. But we need to become inclusive. Anything that tries to make you exclusive, reject it as poison. Anything that brings inclusivity into you, accept it, embrace it, and consume it as nectar. Nectar, amrita. So anything that makes you inclusive is amrita. Anything that makes you exclusive is poison. Religion makes you exclusive. It separates you from other life. Reject it. If political identity makes you, makes you a separate entity or individual from others, actually reject it. Caste, if you makes you exclusive, reject it. Okay, nationality, if it makes you exclusive, reject it. Anything that makes you exclusive, anything that doesn't help you to integrate yourself with the rest of the life is poison. Reject it. So the more you can embrace the whole, the collective, the greater the happiness that you enjoy. Because the whole of the creation has come from one creator, the more you tend to become inclusive, the greater the happiness and peace that you derive. It's as simple as that. So, but we are not conscious of this. See, because the individual is part of the collective. Only when the collective is happy, the individual is happy. Because individual and collective in that way are not separate. But today we tend to become exclusive, and then we want ourselves to make happy. No, possible. So the more inclusive you become, the greater the peace and happiness that you derive. So always have this cosmic in mind. That's the reason always think about the collective. People like Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, we consider great. Why? Because they never bothered about the individual, about their own selves. They always thought about the collective, society, nation, humanity. People like Vivekananda and Buddha, they had thought only about humanity, how to make man, how to help man to liberate from the clutches of samsara. Day and night they would think on that only. Because, for example, Vivekananda, he would not even sleep well. Most of the time his sleep would get disturbed, because not that he had personal problems. Because the misery of the society, the misery of the people around, the misery of the mankind became a great source of misery for himself. So that he would toss up and down on his cot and he would roll to and fro. One day he was found weeping. Okay, he was found weeping like a small child. He was weeping. Another Swami who was sleeping to him next door, he came out and asked, "What happened? Are you not well? Are you sick? Why are you weeping?" A person who has conquered the world, he was weeping like a small child in his room at dead of the night. And the other Swami heard the cries and came out and asked him, "What happened? Are you not well? Why are you weeping like this?" Then he said, "The suffering of the mankind, when I, remind myself of that," because he had seen the whole world, how much of psychological suffering exists in the world, physical, psychological. He couldn't bear to see that. His heart was so tender. Then I'm praying to my Gurudev Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He says, he has done so much of knowledge he has distributed, but still he feels that what he has done is not sufficient to to reduce even 1% of the misery in this world. So he feels helpless, then he's praying to the divine, he's praying to his guru. Please reduce suffering in the world. Please mitigate the sufferings of the people. Please help me. But that much actually, his heart was so tender, he was so kind and so soft. So he couldn't live long. One reason why Vivekananda gave up his body so early in life is he couldn't bear to see the suffering of people. His heart was so tender and so soft. Every great man's heart was like that. That's why they would become great. Okay? Thank you nicely.